Hi, welcome to American Transplant. I'm Tim Nash. Today's episode is dedicated to my friend and fellow expat Andrew Bostock from New Zealand. And like me, Andrew has been away from his home, so he's a Kiwi transplant, for just a little over 25 years. And actually, he posted something recently about being away from home for 25 years. And I looked at the date, and it was early May 1995, and I realized, wow, that was exactly to the day, 2 months after I left Los Angeles back in 1995. Anyway, I thought it would be interesting to talk a little bit about my journey over the past 25 years. People have asked me over the years, what were you doing there? Or how did you get there? Or, you've lived a lot of places, done a lot of different things. And also in these comments, people have wondered, wow, what were you doing there? And you lived a lot of different places and things. So, although I've been based here over 18 years in Munich, I did travel around quite a bit before that. And fortunately, I've been able to travel quite a bit the last several years because my work has taken me to different places. Fortunately, travel is a big hobby, and it's something that I certainly did a lot of before the lockdown, which, by the way, we're still in the middle of. Shops and things are starting to slowly reopen, but hair's a bit longer, a bit grayer perhaps. But I think things with the warmer weather, things will slowly start to open up, hopefully. Anyway, I thought it would also be interesting to tell you what I consider the 3 key skills that have helped me along the way, and the skills that I've developed along the way through my travels and through the different experiences in different places. Skills that have helped me in my personal life and also professional life. I see no difference with these. But before I come to those skills, let me take you back to 1995 when I left. Actually, a little bit before that, my last year and a half at the university in the Los Angeles area, I worked for the Bank of America as a bank teller. At the time, banking and finance was a really sexy industry still, and I thought, this is the direction I want to go, make some money, and then see what happens after that. So after university, I got a job. This is sort of early '94. I got a job with a company, investment funds house, big office on the 31st floor of a tall building down in Los Angeles, a skyscraper. And every day I'd go in with my suit and tie and my briefcase, and I felt like I had really made it. And I thought, that was going to be my life for many years. But after about 6, 7, 8 months, this voice was kept sort of whispering in my ear, there's got to be more than this, and what else is out there? What's next? And kind of a growing curiosity as much as a dissatisfaction, because I liked what I was doing. I liked the people I was working with, but I was 23, and I felt like I was going on 63 behind a desk, working with other people's money, faceless money. So anyway, through a series of coincidences, I met this woman who was looking to send people to South Korea, Incheon, South Korea, to teach English. I had never taught. I didn't study English. I had a college degree, which was enough. And this was kind of my first, I call it a big little act of courage. I got a passport. I had never been out of the country. Got a passport. Sold my car, gave away everything else, furniture, TV, whatever, and took the leap of faith on my own. Went to a country I knew nothing about, wasn't that interested in. It was just that was where the opportunity was at the time, and I went. Fast forward a few years later, and I was teaching English in Japan. A place that I did know a little bit about. I had visited a few times when I was living in South Korea, and I had fallen in love with the food and the language and the culture. It was a place I really wanted to explore. So, my first, I'd say, skill or ability that applies to this first part of my journey was really a kind of a curiosity in, what else is out there, and what does that look like, and how does that work, and I've never done that, but maybe I could, let me try it. So a curiosity that extended just beyond books. I had studied history and politics in college, and I loved those things. But I wanted to get out there, and some of the people I was reading at the time, I was reading books by Ernest Hemingway and Henry Miller, and people who had really thrown off the chains of convention and gone, and at that point in the 20s, 30s, and later they'd gone to Europe, to Paris, to write, and that was kind of the thing that you did if you were an artist or a writer in those times. But they were actually going out and living and experiencing life, and then writing about it, of course. And I wanted to, I was inspired by that. So, I also, between Korea and Japan, actually, I bought a backpack, and I backpacked around Europe. So I went to those places that Hemingway and Henry Miller visited, and sat on park benches. I didn't wear a beret, but I did buy a few baguettes and other things, and tried to do a bit of writing and at least reading on those park benches. But really experienced Europe. It was the summer of 1996. Really experienced European life, again, traveling on my own. Another kind of a little act of courage to buy a backpack and just go. A lot of people go to Europe together after high school or college or whatever. Although I was 24, I turned 25 that summer I was away. I felt quite old, actually, because a lot of people around me were coming off of high school graduation or college graduation or whatever. But I'd say that curiosity again really helped me. Really helped me to I was exposed to different people doing different things from me, and so I was forced to ask questions, and the key was to listen to what the answers were, because I learned a lot. I wasn't necessarily picking up, again, professional know-how or knowledge in any way, but sort of skills of life which have helped me along the way. And connected to of course the curiosity is actually courage, and often it took courage to keep pushing with a question, even though it made me look stupid, or I felt stupid asking it, but and that courage, it helped me more and more. The more things I did, the more places I visited. After my time in Japan, I traveled around Asia a bit, and down into Australia, and then eventually came back and settled in San Francisco. And while I was there, I was convinced that I would resettle in my home country, and I didn't. I realized I'm not done traveling, which was a lesson I learned along the way. You might think you're done with something, but it might not be done with you. Anyway, it took courage to step out of my comfort zone. From asking the questions to actually buying that Eurail or that backpack or whatever, and then a guidebook, and getting on the plane. So I see the curiosity and courage very, very connected. And eventually, I did resettle in San Francisco, but while I was there, I had a chance to lead international tours in, of all places, Europe, also in China. I knew I was familiar with Far East Asia, not China, but with Far East Asia, I felt comfortable there. Europe, I felt really comfortable, and while I was here, and this was 2001, while I was here, I decided, that's where I want to go next. I want to, if not write on that park bench, I at least want to go there and try to live there and experience life in Europe like I did in Asia. and eventually I did. I found a way to come here. I met somebody, my wife, Miriam, who I've talked about before on these episodes, and some of you know. Met her in San Francisco and asked where she was from, and she said Munich, and I said, oh, I've been there, I know Munich. And anyway, we started dating, and eventually she had to come back to Munich, and I asked if I could follow her, which I did, and I've been here ever since. Anyway, connected again to the curiosity and the courage is confidence. And with each of those little acts of courage, going to the unknown place, doing something unknown, putting myself out there, often things didn't work out like I thought they would or wished they would, but I was able to develop confidence along the way. One time somebody asked me, or I think it was a question in Facebook or LinkedIn or something, somebody said, what's the greatest or the most important skill, leadership skill, you could tell somebody, a young person who wanted to be a leader, or something to that effect. And I thought about it, and I wrote back and I said, for me, I think the most important thing was learning how to navigate airports and train stations. Because you get to a train station in the middle of the night or early morning, don't know where you are. Either you got your map, or in the days where I was doing it, there were no cell phones, no internet. Well, eventually there were internet cafes, but in those days I don't think so. Anyway, you really had to be resourceful and find your way around, and find your way to the whether it was the connection with the next train or the next plane, or find your way into into the city. In fact, I remember the day that I flew into Paris with my backpack, early June 1995, and before I had gone to Paris was my first destination. I had called ahead. I had reserved a hostel in Le Marais, which is a very nice posh neighborhood, and it was a nice hostel, and I reserved that by telephone before I'd gone over there. Anyway, that was all secured. Got into Charles de Gaulle, the airport, and found out there was a strike, a citywide strike that day. And I needed to take the metro somehow, from the airport into the city. Now, subsequently, I've learned that there are strikes quite often in Paris, and in France. But at the time, I didn't know that. I thought, wow, this is crazy. I come here the first time and I have a strike. Anyway, somehow I did make it from Charles de Gaulle into the city, to the hostel in Le Marais, only to have them tell me they gave away my place because I was late. And by the way, they didn't speak any English. However, I heard the guy answer the phone after I'd asked him if he spoke English, and his English was great. Anyway, lots of different experiences, different places, but I'd say the key learning from all of this has been really that experience is the best teacher. I'll leave you with that for today. So thanks for listening. See you again soon.